Breaking news in the form of a graduate transfer. The Fighting Irish have picked up a commitment from Jack Coan, who played 3 years for the Wisconsin Badgers. We're going to talk all things about Notre Dame's newest quarterback. But Lou, let's just kind of start with your reaction of Notre Dame getting a graduate transfer. Does this make sense to you for the quarterback room, or was it a little bit of a surprise?
No, it makes complete sense because what do we always say? You recruit one quarterback every year. Well, in the 2017 cycle, the quarterback you recruited was Avery Davis, who was playing in the slot. In 2018, the quarterback you recruited was Phil Dracovic, who's playing at Boston College. So going back to back years into the 2021 without a quarterback on your roster there, and your 2019 quarterback, Brendan Clark, who started the year as maybe the heir apparent to Ian Book. He's got a cranky knee, might require further evaluation, might require him to be limited in the spring if playing at all. Yeah, absolutely. You need every hand on deck that you can get at quarterback. No different really last year than when you needed help at cornerback and you got Nick McLeod from North Carolina State, and you needed some help at wide receiver, and you got Ben Skoranek at Northwestern. Now, maybe those weren't the needle moving moves that some people look for, but both of them ended up as starters. And Nick McLeod played, gosh, I think the third or fourth most snaps on defense this year, and Ben Skoranek, I think the second most among the wideouts. So, yeah, it's a move that definitely was something we could envision.
Yeah, so Avery Davis was Notre Dame's quarterback there in the 2017 class.
Mhm.
And Jack Coan was also in that class as well. Rivals ranked him as a four-star prospect, number 241 overall player in that cycle, number 13 pro-style quarterback, number 2 player from his home state of New York. Interesting little nugget. Jack Coan was committed to Notre Dame as a lacrosse player as a freshman, and then really looked at as soon as his football recruiting took off, he backed off of that, and he did not have a football offer from Notre Dame. So here's kind of the bio on Jack Coan, 6'3", pretty high, honors and awards, a bunch of watch lists. Coming into this season, 2019 All Big Ten honorable mention, Rose Bowl, Big Ten Player of the Week for October 14th, academic, All Big Ten. Looking at some of his stats, Coan played in 25 games, started 18 contests from 2017 to 2019, completed 68% of his passes for 3,278 yards, 32 touchdowns, and 8 picks, compiled a 12-6 record as Wisconsin starter. Now, he did not play in 2020. He was injured going into fall camp, and then Graham Mertz really took handle of that job, and I believe Jack Coan was available for the last 2 games of Wisconsin's season, but Mertz was kind of the established guy, and Wisconsin staff probably figured Coan was on his way out. Graham Mertz, a one-time Notre Dame commit too. So yeah, Lou, when you kind of look at this take for Notre Dame, you kind of figure it's a stopgap, kind of 1-year bridge to a Drew Pine or Tyler Buckner, maybe Brendan Clark. So what do you think about this take for the Irish?
Well, I don't think there's going to be any starter named at the end of spring practice. Hopefully, there is a spring practice this year, but I could not see Brian Kelly if it was just going to be Brendan Clark, Tyler Buckner, and Drew Pine. I couldn't have envisioned that he's saying, okay, this guy's number one, this guy's number two, this guy's number three. Now you're bringing in Jack Coan. You're bringing him in with the idea that he is going to be the starter. He is going to be that bridge between, it could be Ian Book and Drew Pine. It could be between Ian Book and Tyler Buckner. And maybe it could even be between Ian Book and Brendan Clark, depending on how that health status turns out. Now, if he has a great year in 2021, he could probably have a chance at the NFL draft. I'm talking about Jack Coan. So he's that 1 year stopgap measure there. We talk about what's important now. And I know I've seen some comments on the message board is that, hey, let's take our lumps in 2021 with Tyler Buckner. I'd rather go 8-4 than 10-2. A coaching staff cannot think that
Right.
way. They're there to play. They're paid to win games. There's 365 days in a year, and you have 12, 13, and if everything goes right, 14 opportunities to show what those other 351 days meant. You're not just going to say, oh, okay, we'll take the 8-4 and sacrifice for 2022, because when you start building too much for the future, you might not be around for it. You've got to do what's best for the here and now. That's the way I think any coaching staff would have to look at it. And with Cohen being eligible for the spring, what happens here now, Mike, is that whoever is number 3 or considered number 3 at the end of spring, I don't envision them staying around. We've seen it just in the last few days. The transfer portal and the immediate eligibility for players who are going to be leaving now that the NCAA has allowed. This is becoming the wild, wild west in college football with the ultimate free agency. It's always been quarterbacks anyway. If you're the number 3 quarterback, it's like, okay, I'm going to go to greener pastures where I have a chance to start. You're seeing it really happening at all positions. But if you come out at the end of spring and let's say, and I'm just talking hypothetical here,
Right.
you know that Jack Coan is your starter, and they say Drew Prine is number 2. I don't know if Brendan Clark sticks around. Maybe Tyler Buckner even wonders, okay, do I have a chance here? Or if Tyler Buckner, who is going to be an early entrant, if they name him number 2, does Drew Pine suddenly say, look, there's one guy they brought in here. Obviously, they don't have the confidence in me. And now they brought in a guy who's younger than me, who's over me now. So that's why you also brought in this recruiting class, Ron Paulus,
Sure.
because there's an insurance policy. People are going to be leaving in droves at record paces, probably everywhere in the country. I think people have referred to it as processing, that those who are not in the too deep, it's like, okay, time to move on elsewhere. And it's just happening all over right now.
Yeah, so scholarship quarterbacks, you have Jack Coan, Brendan Clark, Drew Pine, Tyler Buckner, and Ron Paul. So that's 5. So, I mean, Notre Dame's had 3 the past couple seasons, if not more. Like, so now you have 5. That's a big group of scholarship quarterbacks. I think one other thing to mention, Lou, is that if you're on the depth chart and you're behind a player who's younger than you, that's when you really will see transfers. Look at the running
Oh,
back
sure.
spot. You have Kyron Williams and Chris Tyree were your 1-2 backs this year. And then you have Jameer Smith and Jafar Armstrong. Both have entered the transfer portal since the season's ended.
Yeah. And even Jafar, he moved to wide receiver, but was there going to be, now he has to adjust again and reacclimate to a new position. And now you have a lot of other younger guys perhaps that they want to get in. Everyone has wanted to see Jordan Johnson. Does Kevin Austin, is he healthy now? Is Braden Lindsey going to be back to healthy form? Or Joe Wilkins and Lawrence Keys and all, Avery Davis? Where's the opportunity? But you're going to have competition really everywhere.
Well, we appreciate you guys watching this video. Make sure you like it. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And make sure you go to blueandgold.com for really the impact of this, what the quarterback room looks like, what kind of player Jack Coan is on film. Again, go to blueandgold.com for all of your Notre Dame football, basketball, and recruiting coverage.